Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Naomi Phillips. I'm the Deputy Chief Executive of Learning and Work Institute, and it's my real pleasure to welcome you to our event today, held together with JP Morgan. And this event is the culmination of a 2-year project exploring and promoting best practice in the design and delivery of pre-apprenticeship programs. And we're so pleased to welcome delegates from the UK, from Europe, and actually right across the world today. And we're really grateful for the support of JP Morgan in enabling us to take this critical and important agenda forward. Today, we're going to be hearing from 4 fantastic providers. During the first part of the event, we'll be focusing on the role of employers in contributing to effective pre-apprenticeships. And we've got inputs from DigiSheds in the UK and the Yoshpi Foundation from Brazil. We're going to be having a short break through just about halfway through the event. And the second part of the session will focus on effective support for young people. And we're going to be joined by Pinardi from Spain and Joblinger from Germany. And we're really pleased that a number of the providers who will be speaking today are going to include inputs from employers and from young people themselves who have been involved in those programs. The context within which we're all living and working has changed a lot since we started this project. However, even before the pandemic, too many young people had struggled to make those important transitions into the labour market. Many had poor experiences of school and were unable to complete basic education. Others struggled to gain work experience or gain secure employment. And data from across the world shows that young people have been hit particularly hard by the global economic crisis that has been created by the coronavirus pandemic. We've seen soaring levels of youth unemployment alongside disrupted education. And that's created a generation of young people whose transition into the labour markets have been significantly affected. Evidence shows that disadvantaged young people have been disproportionately affected and pushed further away from apprenticeships and those other and wider labour market opportunities. This reinforces the importance of effective, high quality and inclusive pre-apprenticeships that provide opportunities for the most disadvantaged young people. And as I mentioned, we'll be hearing from 4 providers who work in 4 different countries and with different groups of young people, all of whom are delivering pre-apprenticeships in engaging and really creative ways. And I can't wait. In terms of housekeeping today, delegates will all automatically be put on mute, so you don't need to worry about that. But we're really keen that you are, that this is a really interactive event. So please do put your comments and questions in the chat function, and we will be picking these up throughout that and in special question and answer sessions as well. I'm now going to hand over to Hanke Bolderman, who is the Executive Director of Global Philanthropy at JP Morgan, who's going to speak about why pre-apprenticeships are so important to JP Morgan and their role in supporting young people into employment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi, and thanks a lot to the whole Learning and Work Institute team and the great partnership over the years. And it's great to be with you all today. This is a very important topic to us, how we can make pre-apprenticeship programs the norm, also to make apprenticeship pathways more inclusive. Despite the disruption caused by 2 years of the pandemic, we see that across Europe, apprenticeship programs have sort of a renaissance as effective tools to create a bridge to jobs for young people, and also linked to opportunities in the digital and green transitions that are really front of mind these days. In this context, the program led by the Learning and Work Institute with the support of JP Morgan has provided and will continue to provide relevant tools, good practice and learnings that I trust are valuable resources for practitioners delivering pre-apprenticeship programs or similar employability programs for young people. Promoting economic inclusion and access to opportunities for young people is core to JP Morgan's corporate responsibility commitment, and we do this across 37 countries globally. As part of this mission, we have a global initiative called New Skills at Work, where we have committed $350 million over 5 years to develop, test, and scale innovative efforts to prepare individuals with the skills they need to be successful in the labor market and particularly in a very rapidly changing economy. The pandemic has accelerated the pace of that change, posing new issues, but also creating new opportunities. And if there's something that we have learned from the past 2 years, I would say it's really the importance of collaboration. We strongly believe that working together across countries, leveraging the expertise and skills of different stakeholders is essential to tackle daunting challenges and to maximize all our impact. So the program, and specifically also this event today, is testament to this approach. And we're very pleased to see many familiar names today: Fundación Jospli, Pinardi, Joblinge, just to mention a few. And I would like to thank each of the training providers, nonprofit organizations, policymakers, employers that are joining today, because it's only by working together that we can contribute to making apprenticeship programs more inclusive. So I would like to wish all of you a very interesting session, a very lively, interactive one as well, and really want to thank Learning and Work Institute for the collaboration. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Hanke. Dilbag, could we move on 2 slides, please? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackie Woodhouse, and I'm the project manager at Learning and Work Institute for our work on pre-apprenticeships with JP Morgan. Our recent work builds on previous project with JP Morgan, which focused on exploring and promoting effective practice in the design and delivery of pre-apprenticeships across Europe. Through this more recent project, we've sought to share, promote and support the exchange of good practice in the delivery of pre-apprenticeship programs right across the world, programs that successfully equip young people from all backgrounds to access and sustain apprenticeships and other employment opportunities. Building on findings from our earlier work, we've been particularly interested in this project in exploring good practice across a number of areas, including digital skills, approaches to online and blended learning, brought into even sharper focus, of course, given the need for providers to adapt their programme delivery in response to the pandemic, learn-to-learn skills and transversal or soft skills. Next slide, please. So how has this happened? The project has involved a range of activities. Our peer learning programme brought together 11 providers from Germany, Spain, Ireland, Kenya and the UK over a period of 6 months to share experiences, ideas, approaches and good practice from their pre-apprenticeship programmes and from their different country contexts on different aspects of the design and delivery of pre-apprenticeships. And we're really pleased to have some of these providers with us speaking today. Alongside this, we've run a series of webinars to support the dissemination and exchange of knowledge and ideas on effective practice in evaluation, project-based learning, blended learning, and employer engagement in pre-apprenticeships. We're also working with 6 providers across different countries to produce some new case study films about their pre-apprenticeship provision to provide insight for wider education and training providers into different elements of best practice and how these approaches might be used within providers' own pre-apprenticeship offers. Building on the existing interactive provider guide on best practice in the design and delivery of pre-apprenticeships, which we developed as part of our earlier work with JP Morgan, we also last year produced 2 new resources for providers. These include a guide on blended learning, which provides practical information and advice, drawing on evidence on effective practice in blended learning programs, and another on skills development, again, a practical resource aimed at supporting providers to develop their programs around the delivery of basic skills, basic digital skills, transversal and learn-to-learn skills, and employability skills. We've also, through our different project activities, developed a network of more than 250 pre-apprenticeship and wider training providers, as well as other types of stakeholders. And pre-apprenticeships and wider work on youth employment will continue to be a focus for learning and work beyond the lifetime of this project, and will keep you informed of future work of interest. Next slide. So finally, this slide just provides a quick summary of some of the resources that are currently available on the development of pre-apprenticeship programmes on the Learning and Work website. These include the full provider guide and the 2 new guides I've just mentioned. These are available in English, Spanish, German and French on the website. You'll also find 11 written provider case studies highlighting good practice and different aspects of pre-apprenticeship provision. There are 5 short films on best practice already on the website, and we'll shortly be adding to those with 6 new films, as I mentioned earlier, and those are from providers working in Spain, Brazil, Ireland and the UK. And again, some of those providers are with us today. There's also a full report there from our earlier research with JP Morgan on pre-apprenticeships, and all of those resources can be accessed via the link shown at the bottom of the slide. So I really do encourage you to take a look, but we'll also send around these slides afterwards, and perhaps during the event we could also put the link in the chat, please, Kat. So thank you very much. I hope very much that you enjoy and find today's event useful, and now I'll hand back to Naomi to introduce the first of today's plenary sessions.
Thanks so much, Jackie. Next slide, please, Stillbag. I'm now really pleased to welcome our speakers. So they'll tell you much more about themselves, but I'm really delighted to welcome Alex Cole, who's the Chief Executive at Tin Ventures and DigiShed, and Honorata Taiwanayuk, the Digital Adoption and Service Integration Lead at Capgemini, and also Claudio Anjos, the President of Fundação Yoshpi, and Max Silva, who's a graduate of Formare and a Senior Engineer at Arrival. Thank you. And I think we're going to go to Alex first. Could you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks, Naomi. Really good to be here. As Naomi has mentioned, I'm joined by Honorata Taiwanayuk from Capgemini, and she'll be speaking later on once we get to a point where we can introduce how we've worked with employers, and she's kind of in bringing the employer input to this presentation. So I'm just going to move through this pretty quickly, so it gives you an opportunity to just see what we do. We call our approach a place-based pre-apprenticeship strategy, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. Can we have the next slide, please? So this is a little bit just about me and Tin Ventures. We've set up Tin Ventures. It's about 7 years old as a social enterprise, and it contains a range of programs and pathways specifically for young people and older people who are disadvantaged in some way or excluded, using whatever measure you like. You can use the social inclusion measure or the digital inclusion measure to describe the kinds of people we work with, but generally they have been through formal settings, formal learning opportunities, and just not found their way to what is defined as good work by the Institute of the Future of Work, which has created a good work monitor. So we use that as a basis for describing what we regard as the destination of good work. So TIN is effectively, it stands for Think Innovation. So that's what it's an acronym effectively, and the ventures that bit is really about the social enterprises. So can we move to the next slide, please? So we're here to talk about DigiShed, and it's a structured program which works backwards really from the employer, and understanding what the employer requires from entry levels for entry level roles and for young and older people. And we describe that as a pre-apprenticeship program because we are obviously the step before them joining the organization that they end up with, either joining an apprenticeship or joining directly. So it is a structured end-to-end program based around giving people digital skills and digital competencies, and enabling them to develop their confidence in terms of the use of digital and digital tools as part of a wide knowledge society. And we take people through this journey through 3 phases, and I'll go through those in a bit more detail shortly. So next slide, please. So we've created a campaign called Can Do Digital, which is obviously the antidote for people feeling that they can't do digital. And we're looking at how people can, and we use the campaign to drive engagement with people who are typically not picked up by the normal academic route or by providers who effectively aren't designing the program for people who are low on confidence. So we start, even the call to action is about giving them confidence and generating that confidence in them engaging with us, because if you can't do digital, we believe you can, and that's the mission and the message continuously throughout the program. Next slide, please. So you'll hear me reinforce this constantly, and hopefully Honorata will talk more about this in terms of, from an employer perspective. But our measure of success is just about getting people jobs, and that what we would define as good work, as aligned, as I said, to the Institute of the Future of Work's Good Work Charter, which has 10 components or 10 pillars of what good work describes. So jobs are the way we measure success. We don't measure that based on numbers of people engaging through the program. It's really just what is the destination of people in terms of the type of job, and generally, obviously, that's going to be in a digital setting or a digital workplace. Next slide, please. So what makes us different? If we go to the next slide. The whole idea of this concept of place-based location is really something that we took up from the very beginning. The program started. I was seconded to business in the community from my day job at the time, which was a senior leader in a large digital organization. And I was seconded to business in the community to interact with local charities and organisations that were trying to make a difference in an area. The area I chose was Lambeth, and we created DigiSheds to enhance what was actually being delivered on the ground, because we thought that although they were very well-meaning in terms of the programs that they were delivering, they didn't really focus on the kind of digital skills that employers were looking for, and you see there in terms of the bullet points, it was really about widening that access to the kind of learning that would make a difference to employers, preparing those young people for work, and again, it's about that job and that work, and creating that context between skills and industry that people were missing, which was then effectively giving people a better sense of the place that they lived, and a real identity that was linked to success in their home location, rather than them having to move to a job. So it was very much about this place-based approach and joining up the provision that was already there, and that's very much what we've done. We found local providers and given them a toolkit and a program that they can join to deliver to in a way that's sustainable. So we enhance the local knowledge and the local delivery. Next slide, please. So this is really just a quote from the Open University. We had them come in and do an audit, and if you like, a study of what the DigiSheds curriculum was trying to deliver. And you'll see there they were quite complimentary, obviously, but I think it's important to look at what they focused on, which was our ability to confront issues and develop personal strategies for the people that were going through the program, so that this was very much employer-led, but also giving people that sense of ownership of their own destiny. And that is something we absolutely have continued to do, and done that in terms of engaging with diverse groups of people and helping them to feel that sense of belonging. I think Hanka talked about this earlier, that we want to create this as the norm, so scale and sustain this program, but also give people that sense of inclusion, so that sense of belonging, but also make it equitable. And so those people who needed more help to get to the destination they were looking for, we provided that additional support. And those people who needed less, would obviously, we could fast track them through the process. So that is absolutely embedded in how we deliver the program. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, we work backwards. We call it a reverse commissioning approach. So instead of designing the program to work with to align to a funding stream, we actually work backwards from the employer. So next slide, please. So these are the range of employers and organisations we work with. You'll see that we work with combined authorities and mayoral and the mayors, metro mayors programs. We also work with individual organisations, but also collaborative organisations like local enterprise partnerships and digital specialists. So that we work across the range of the economic and skills landscape across an area. And try to focus specifically on those areas that are in demand and those activities that are in demand. And we work with employers as partners, so they provide the mentors initially and help us design the curriculums aligned to specific job roles that they are trying to fill. Next slide, please. So this is effectively the process that we use. And as you see in that first box, it's really about understanding the specific digital roles that employers want to recruit into, and we take them through this process. As I said, it's a reverse commissioning. So we start with them, we talk to them about what they're looking for. We then create what we call a T profile, which is effectively the horizontal is looking at the soft skills that they identify for a particular job role. And then the vertical is the core digital technical skills that they're looking for. It won't surprise you to know, for those people who've worked in this space for a long time, that predominantly they're looking for soft skills. They feel that the vertical and technical skills they can do themselves as employers. And I'm sure Honorata will talk about that a bit more shortly. But we create this T profile because it's very easy then to translate to the learner and to the employer exactly what we're achieving during the training. We then create this set of competency modules, and we align that to competency frameworks. Predominantly, we use the Skills for an Information Age, the Sophia competency framework, because that's very well used in digital workplaces. We then obviously source, attract and engage the young people. So we go to places where predominantly employers won't go. So we'll go to youth centres, we'll go to local places, and we use a range of partners, as I mentioned, and hence this place-based approach. So we don't try and do everything ourselves or feel we can build it and they will come. We use the local signposting organisations, local people who understand and work with young people, and can then encourage those young people to come towards the program. And then we develop their talent along the pathways that we talked about, moving at the pace that they want to move at. And we do a lot of work in the beginning of the program to understand their barriers and challenges, so that we can align their training to and their development to exactly how they're set up in terms of their home life and in terms of how they like to learn. Next slide, please. So we use digital badging, which at the time when we first started, it was not as well known as it is now. So we work with a number of partners like City and Guilds and providers like Credly. And we package this around what the RSA Cities of Learning program, which is just one of the collective sets of badges that we provide. Next slide, please. And this is just a slide to talk about the fact that using the badges gives what we provide, which is generally classed as informal learning settings. It gives provides the young people and the learners with the confidence to go towards job roles where they probably don't have the credentials and the experience, but the badges do give them something to be able to show, which can be then through the metadata embedded in the badge, the ability for employers and partners to endorse them. So it's very much a real-time endorsement of their capability and what they've been doing lately. Next slide, please. So we have a three-stage program. We call the first stage Get Ready, which is effectively the transition from them coming from anywhere else into the program, and we use a range of tools and models and to understand what's going on with them, as I said, in terms of their lives and barriers and any biases they have potentially towards digital itself, because we find that a lot of young people and older people generally don't do well in formal or informal settings because effectively they don't really agree and don't want to provide their data or engage with some of the programs because they're fearful of what's going to happen with their data or with and they're suffering from low confidence. So we have to provide quite a long period of time to understand them and to reassure them that we're not doing anything that isn't going to support them and help them to get to a job. And again, we keep reinforcing this concept that we're helping them to move towards a job and getting into good work and building a career. Next slide, please. Part of that is what we call a skills tune-up, and it's really for those people who just need to work on how they present themselves in an interview and in a CV. So we've got inside that program, we have multiple different activities. Okay, so next slide, please. We can move past this. I've already mentioned so next slide. So the second stage is Get Set, which is a 3 or 12-week program. 3 weeks if these young people or older people have worked before and have got a good sense of their employability, and we just need to use the skills tune-up to hone it. The 12 weeks, the longer session, is for people who are coming from not being in a work setting or really need the support. Next slide, please. And the final phase is a deep dive boot camp called Get Smart. And these cover a range of sectors and professional areas, which you can see there. So these are probably more traditional skills boot camps, but of course we've been working with these young people for quite a long time up to this point. So this really does start to tailor them to a job setting and a particular role. Next slide, please. We can move through this again. This is just an example of badges. Next slide, please. And here are just some examples, and we can make the slides available to you afterwards, so you can have a quick look at some of the young people that we've worked with. I'd like to bring in Honorata now as we hover over these slides, because she's worked with some of these young people. Honorata, are you there?
I am, yes. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hi. So do you want to talk a little bit about your experience of working with us and why you have done it?
Sorry, my light has just gone. Just give me 2 seconds. Sorry. Yes, so from the employer perspective, I've worked with DigiSheds for quite some time now, and not to talk about it for a long time, but there are three key areas that I believe are make the DigiShed as a way of as an approach completely unique. And the first bit from my perspective as a hiring manager is that it is the training, the journey is aligned to a person, which is completely different to what you would normally experience when you have a potential employee who goes to a training and just has to make a choice of some kind of bootcamp scope of the training and things like that. And then it may happen that throughout that time, the person finds out that this is definitely not something that they want to do, or they can't complete the training for whatever reason. So that alignment with the person, and then the second bit is the focus on the person itself at the very beginning. So understanding whether all the challenges that the person has got that Alex was explaining, that is such a key aspect of getting the person ready and focusing on a person rather than just a training itself. And then the second bit is super important, I believe, is the job. So the DigiShed starts with the job, just as Alex explained, and that is really, really key. I've been part of loads of conversations with government bodies where they tell us, the employers, what roles they recognize as the required mostly on the market. And to be honest, our feedback from the employer's side was that we would never define those, let's say, top 10 roles as the most required. We wouldn't describe them in the way that you've described. We wouldn't name them. We wouldn't advertise them in the way that you've described, which only provides the proof, just proves the point that when you speak to an employer, we have our ways of working, we have our jobs, our descriptions. And when we start with the job and then build the training to deliver to that requirement, then it's much easier for us to be able to, one, align with what the training is, to feel that we are involved, to feel that we should be able to recruit from that cohort. So our time invested in working with DigiShed is not lost. It actually brings so much value. And then the last bit is the flexibility of the program itself. So because the program is tailored to a job, and then it's again tailored to a person, it is really, really flexible, and that works for the employers as well. So some of the people with understanding their challenges, they may require a longer time in the first phase where they work through and get ready to actually be employable, whilst others may just require a refresh on what good looks like and how to behave in front of the potential employer. So that flexibility is super key for us. But the last bit as a summary from my side, I think it's to emphasize what Alex also mentioned of how we're looking at the market and the potential employees. It is that if the person is ready and the person is able to work in an environment that fits our particular business, then we can teach them technology. So it's not the case that we can't give people technical training or introduce them to specific business areas or market units. We can provide all that. What we are struggling with is finding people who are ready to work, who are committed to work, who understand how they need to behave to be, one, present themselves when they come to us as the potential employer, but two, be presentable and can work with our clients. And then three is to how to keep the job and how to what is important from the employer's perspective, that we're looking in the person if it comes to the day-to-day, literally just turning up or reporting an issues up front or giving us early warnings or even just being fulfilling the commitments that they make. And I think from my experience, that has been the biggest challenge, not the technology. It's everyone can teach technology, and there are lots of trainings, and we can
Thanks,
teach from
Honorata.
experience as well. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm being told I need to wind up as well.
Oh,
So
sorry.
thank you very much. No, thanks, Honorata. So thank you to everybody for listening. as I said, the slides will be made available, I'm sure. So yeah, over to you, Naomi.
Thank you so much. And it's always such a shame to cut people short, and what a fascinating presentation. And I know that we'll have, I'm sure, lots of questions and comments for you both. I'm now going to hand straight over to Claudio Anjos, who is the president of Fundação Yoshpi, for the next presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Naomi, and thanks all the colleagues for inviting me to be here talking about such an important point. And I would like to divide my speech in two different parts. First, I'm going to explain how the program works and what the Yoshpi Foundation is all about. And then I'm going to be talking to Max, one of our former students from Formari, which is the program that we've been developing in Latin America since 1989. So starting with the program, in 1989, we were thinking about helping young people to make their transition from schools, from high schools to the workplace. And we noticed that schools usually don't prepare well youth to enter the marketplace, neither do universities. So the first thing we did was to put together a range of educators to think about their needs and the topics that we could improve, that we could innovate to deliver a better program than the ones that were already in the market. So we made a huge research in the 80s, and we noticed that the paradigm at the time, which is still nowadays paradigm, is the German dual system, where students have the technical part at schools and then the more pragmatic and practical part within the companies. And we wanted to do things differently. So first of all, we decided to work only with very low income youth. So students who are coming from families whose average monthly income was up to one minimum wage from the Brazilian and Mexican governments. So we are really talking to the bottom of the pyramid at the time. And we're still doing this nowadays. So we figure out that apart from technical training, they also needed to have a scholarship because they come from very low income families. They also needed some health support. They also needed to have equipments, books, and everything that they needed so that they could start their training. So we put together a group of benefits that all the students that came to the program would receive. So they all receive a scholarship, they receive health support, they receive meal vouchers, they receive transportation, uniforms, everything that they need. Then we went to the more pedagogical part of it. In order to be innovator, what we noticed was that if we want to teach exactly skills and competences that the market wants them to have, we would need to change the program concept. So instead of having part of the training in the school and part of the training in a company, we decided to do 100% of the training within the company, because there are aspects that are very important for them to come to the workplace that we cannot teach at school. For instance, how to behave within the workplace, or how to write memorandum. So how to behave themselves within a company. These are very important things and strategic concepts and skills that they need to have. Also, since we trained kids from very low income, sometimes these kids don't think that the workplace is a place for them. They don't think they could belong to those places. So leaving school in the morning or at night and then going to a company every day, 5 days a week throughout a year may help them believe that this is a place for them as well. So we developed this 100% training program within the companies that takes up to 11, 12 months, 900 hours, 1,000 hours of training. This is our first change. The second change that we made was, instead of hiring people in the market to become professors, tutors of these kids, we decided to work 100% with people that are already working in the market. So we set up commitments and agreements with partner companies that would invite their employees, the ones who are interested, to become what we call volunteer educators. So those who decided to join the program would receive a training from us. So we put together a very comprehensive training so that they could become educators for those students. This is very important because not only they have the skills to teach the kids what they actually show the market that they have, but they also represent a role model. They represent symbols to these kids. These kids are not, they're not used to dreaming about their future. They don't think they can become doctors and engineers and lawyers. And these people, they represent elements that the students couldn't find in their own communities or in their schools or within their friends or families. So, and they also gonna become their own professional network. Whenever they need to have a reference in the market, they would refer to these so-called volunteer educators to give them advice and so forth and tutoring and whatever they need. The third thing that we changed was about curriculum. So instead of having on-the-shelf curriculum to deliver to these kids, we first start by producing a diagnosis of those companies. What are the skills that they need or competencies they don't find in the job market? What competencies and skills they need in order to implement their own strategic planning for the future, for the next 5, 10, 15 years to come. So we create a customized curriculum for each company. And we are talking about nowadays 46 different companies, 68 units spread out all over Brazil and Mexico. And we have a specific curriculum for each specific need of each of these units within the companies or partner companies. We work with multinational companies such as 3M, General Electric, Cummins, Yoshpi Maxium, Embraer from the aerospace industry, and so forth. So in short, it's been proved to be a very successful model because we run research every 2 years. And the last one that we ran in December 2021 showed that 93% of our formal students have a formal place in the market in Brazil and Mexico. So this is a very high number. And 87% of the volunteer educators are proud of doing this within their own companies. So this is a very interesting model. This is a very unique model. There's no similar in other countries. And we're looking now with the support of JP Morgan and Learning and Work Institute to make this available for other people in other companies, in other countries all over the world. But better than listening to me talking about the Formati program and all the benefits, I think better than this is listening to someone who was directly impacted by it. So I'd like to invite our friend Max Conceição to join us on the floor and to tell us at first how Formati program has impacted your life. Max, please welcome.
Thanks, Claude. Hello, afternoon, all. It's really a pleasure to me to be here, talk about Formati again. And as Claude commented before, in our life, it's like a stair. We need to go step by step, and definitely Formati was the first and one of the most important steps in my life. I live from a reality where I have to work every day to be able to buy my food to eat the next day. So that was in theory my reality. And most of the young people in non-developed country, it's living this reality now. And when I meet Formati in my life, it's like the window of the world has opened in front of my face. And I learned how to believe myself. I learned that the dream is possible to become true. And through Formati, I meet a lot of people that I'm in touch until nowadays, years and years after Formati, that really helped me to shape my future with examples, with daily work during the Formati program. So what's a completely change of game in my life when I start to study Informati. So now I live in England. I became to England 5 years ago to work for Jaguar Land Rover, and here I built my family. I have my wife here. I have my daughter, and I live a completely different reality. Of course, I have to step in the other. I have to build the other steps in my life after the first one, but definitely nothing will happen without Formati being my first step.
Thanks, Max. And what types of skills did you learn at the time of Formati that you use today in your professional life?
Yeah, so that's I think one of the most interesting questions that you can do for an ex-Formati, a former Formati. I think the most important for Formati in my life, particularly speaking, was not only the technical skill. The technical skill was important to integrate myself in my first job, but more than that, the behaviors that you get on Formati, it's extremely unique for these young people in these countries. I learned how you need to behave in front of a professional environment, and all these skills and ambition that I learned in Formati, I bring it to my life, and it's certainly one of the strongest things that is helping me to keep in my journey.
Max, one of the most important topics about Formati is this transformational method that we use. So I'd like to ask you, before the course, what were your goals? And after Formati, what has changed in terms of your vision for yourself?
Yeah, so basically, before Formati, it's my view for the future was very limited. And then this is normal, it's because it is the environment that I was living before. And then when I started to have my daily working Formati, I started to have a lot of examples in front of me, giving me the class. And the more than teachers and example, they become to be my friends. And all this, their advice during the difficult situation, it's building up all your personality and the shaping who we will be in the future. And one of the things that I learned in Formati was that my professional career, my personal, start there. So everything that I plan there, I'll collect in the future. So every day it's important in our life. Everything that you do, people will remember. And a good example of that is when my first work in the engineering environment was a former teacher that was the supervisor. And the reason that he hired me is because he know all my personality and my ambition from Formati. And I had a lot of another candidates that was much more experienced than me, but he believed in my career. He believed that, and he know that I build a trust person. And whenever he give in my hands, I will deliver to it. So yes, Formati is always with me, and it's really a change of game for me, Claudio.
Thanks, Max. But being very objective, do you believe that Formati was essential for your personal and professional life?
Absolutely.
And did it help your dream, set up your dream and set up your goals? How did it happen in the practice?
Yeah, so I don't know where I'll be if it wasn't Formati in my life, to be honest. I have no doubt but that this was one of the most important steps that I take in my career, and what was really not only financial and technical knowledge, but all my life that I built when I was in Brazil was because of Formati. So it's really a life change. Was a really life change to me.
Okay, thanks, Max. Yes, as Max, we already have over 25,000 people that are spread out all over the world because they started believing in themselves, in their dreams, and so forth. So thanks, Naomi and the friends from Learning and Work Institute and JP Morgan. So handing back over to you, Naomi.
Thank you so much, both. What an inspiring presentation. Could have listened to you for much longer, but luckily we're not finished yet. We are now going to go into a question and answer session. So I'm going to hand over to my colleagues, Jackie and Kat, to do that and to take some questions from delegates as well. Thank you.
We have a lot of questions. We have some questions in the chat, and please encourage everyone to write more questions in the chat. And we have some questions that have been sent to us before, and some questions that we prepared ourselves as well. So we have a lot of questions to everyone, and we will start with a question to Alex about employer engagement on the program. So Alex, do you encounter any challenges in getting employers to be able to specify the specific job roles or skills that they need when they're working with you?
Yes, a really good question. Yes, we do. The different types of organizations have different challenges. So some the smaller organizations, and I'm talking about 1 to 2 to 5 people, generally don't have a structured HR process. They don't have a job description that you would recognize in a format that they can send. They kind of want to tell you what the job is, which is more difficult, obviously, to translate. And then you've got the bigger corporates, which I think Honorata described, where they have absolutely mandated. They've got lots and lots of information. So I think, yes, there are different types of challenges. You have to kind of overcome and match what they're looking for from each different type of organization, and mirror what they're trying to do. That's why we created the T profile. So we're basically giving our learners and them the same format that they then align to.
Thank you, Alex. So that was really useful for a lot of the programs. We'll now go on to Claudio to talk also about employer engagement in the program. So Claudio, could you tell us what have you found most successful in approaching new employers to encourage them to participate in Promaru?
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Kat. This has been a very important question. The key factor of success of Formati is the engagement of the companies. It's very important to reach the leadership of the company, because 100% of the program happens within the company. So we use the company environment as a pedagogical tool as well. So the fact that they have a cohort of 20 students, low-income students, coming every day to spend 4 to 5 hours within the company to get trained by their own employees, request a lot of understanding of the power of this change and a lot of commitment from the leadership of the companies. And so far, our best ambassadors, so to speak, are the CEOs and the presidents of the companies, because they keep talking to their partners to engage them in this social change within their own environment. So it's difficult to explain at first to a president or a CEO what the program is about and the changes that we want to make within the communities where they're situated and so forth. But once they live this experience, they don't want to, let it go. We have many examples. We've been running this program since 1989, so we've got already 33 years of success. So we have many examples of former executives that changed companies, and they call us to ask for the program to be implemented in the new places. We have vice presidents, CEOs, presidents, directors that become volunteer educators themselves, and they see the change that they make in those people's lives. And they are proud of this. As I said before, we just ran a research and we found out that 87% of the educators are proud of doing this within their work time. So the only thing we need is an opportunity to bring the program within the company so that the company can understand the change. And one of the things that we do in order to get the CEOs and presidents to commit to us is to invite them to visit other companies other multinational companies to see it in place and to talk to their executives. So this is a very effective way to produce engagement with new partners.
Thank you for that, Claudio. We have Honorata here to kind of represent employer perspective as well in this discussion. Honorata, I was wondering, did you have any tips for programs about approaching employers, how to best approach employers to invite them to participate in such programs?
That's a very good question, and I think what needs to be recognized is each of the employers have got their own roles, and sometimes it might be much easier to engage with the right people. Sometimes it might be harder. So I come from Capgemini, and I can tell you that I need to go through quite a few hoops to make sure that I can present, that I can engage, how that can be formalized. Sometimes it is not because the program does not work. It might be that the size and the scale is not recognized or not in line with the strategy at this stage of the company. But it's also important to not to give up, because it might not be the right time, even within a year, but it can be relevant in other areas. So if you get knocked out because I don't know, you haven't got traction with one particular person, that it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to someone else and try a different route. And it doesn't have to be HR team or recruitment team. Those routes are usually the ones that have closed because companies have got rules and contracts in place with agencies. And similarly to learning and development, the best rule is probably the business. So those who are actively, literally delivering the services to the clients, and those people know the most what is it required, what roles are in demand, what services are in demand, and if that the framework and the opportunity, the flexibility of the working arrangements with particular provider is flexible enough, and it does align with what is required on the business side, that we can make things happen, and we can then work on with the HR teams or diversity and inclusion teams, whatever the route would be the right. But I think it's that, don't go to recruitment. It's the hardest way, I believe. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Honorata. So that's really useful and very encouraging, I'm sure, for programs to hear that. So the next question I'd like to address to Max. Max, could you tell us about, of the activities that you did with employers, what kind of activities did you find most useful and helpful on the program?
Yeah, so basically the program that I was part of was in Volkswagen truck and bus, and we have a lot of activity in terms of in the shop floor, learn how to building in the manufacturing process. But I think for me, that I'm engineering now, so engineer now, the most interesting things was the engineer part. So how to measure a part, or I started to have this first contact with the engineer world, and then I discovered myself, and so I have a passion for that. So I have to invest more time on this.
Thank you, Max. The next question I'm going to pick up from the chat is to Alex, and it's about the systems perspective and scaling the program. So Alex, could you offer your reflections on if the program is completely tailor-made, tailored to individuals and organizations, how can it be scaled up?
Yeah, so this is an important one, and we've tried lots of different things. We've not been around as long as Claudio. We've been around about 7 or 8 years. We've tried 2 or 3 different models for scaling the program, and the biggest hurdle is to make sure that you're still delivering the quality that you started off with, but doing that with multiple different groups of people. So one of the things I would definitely say to people is that you need to create a systematic way of delivering your program, so that you have almost a training program that is enabling you to then train people very quickly to the level that you need to, and then The second thing would be to then give them the opportunity to see it being done and delivered and going through a cycle, at least 1 or 2 cycles of a successful group, a successful training cohort, where they can see the interactions. Because when you're delivering something, it's very difficult to then see how it's actually evolving and see how. So we get them to support the young people and the people on the training. So they then coach them. So we have what we call talent coordinators who spend time, and they're the glue really. And the trainers that we are trained, the people we are training, effectively get used to listening to the challenges and the problems. And when they then embark on the actual training themselves, they then understand some of the challenges that these young people are going through, because many of them are not anything to do with what they're learning. It's to do with their life, or the fact that they're being distracted by something else, or they're dealing with something completely outside of it, or it's just, lack of confidence about a particular topic. And I think the third thing is just then to make sure that you find partners in the local places that you are delivering. Don't try and do it on your own. You will. It's really difficult. I think again, Hank had mentioned this. You need to collaborate with local people. So find somebody who you can work with, either an organization that can signpost. In Claudio's case, I think what he was describing is an employer that really understands the local, the local environment. But find local specialists, because you will make lots of mistakes if you don't.
Thank you, Alex. The next question from the chat is also to you, Alex. Is on, you mentioned your place-based approach in your program. Has your thinking of practice around that changed at all with the pandemic and move to more people working from home?
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, we as a program that's teaching digital skills, clearly we needed to pivot, and did pivot quite quickly. What we did find, though, is the change from having a physical space meant that it's very difficult to pick up all the different things and support the people in the way that we were able to do in a face-to-face setting digitally. So we've had to use digital tools like WhatsApp groups and different things to kind of surface the different challenges. So yeah, it's been more difficult and more challenging, but we've still managed to get it done. It just has a set of but it does mean the added advantage you can take on people from lots of different places. You're not limited to one place.
Thank you so much, Alex. And I think it's we still have a lot of questions, but I think it might be time for our break now. So I'll hand back over to Naomi now.
Thank you so much, Kat, and to all our panelists and contributors. What a fascinating first session. So yeah, we are going to go to a break now, just for 10 minutes. Make a cup of tea, have a breather, but please do sign back in at 3:15, and we're going to kick off straight away with the next plenary then. So look forward to seeing you again in 10 minutes. That's 3:15. See you then. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good break and are refreshed now for the second half of our event. In this next session, we are focused on the different ways in which young people are supported to engage and progress. And this aspect of pre-apprenticeship programs is particularly important, given that participants are often from disadvantaged backgrounds or may face barriers to the labour market, and might need particularly tailored and person-centred support to help them to overcome. And I'm really happy to hand over to our first speaker in this plenary session, Berta Ruiz Sanchez from PINADI. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This morning we're going to be presenting a little bit of PINADI. I will briefly present our organization. First of all, we would like to thank you all for being here and listening to our projects, and we will be happy to answer any questions at the end. My colleague Berta is, as Naomi said, she will be presenting the specific project of first professional experience, and later we will have one of the participants of the project share her testimony, Sophia, so we will be closing up with that. Firstly, as Naomi well said, we are an organization called PINADI. We are situated in Spain, specifically Madrid, with 8 centers distributed throughout Madrid and also Castilla-La Mancha and the southern part of Spain. And we work with a wide variety of participants, from minors with whom we give school support, also with young offenders that have to do actions to repair what they've done, and also with refugees, unaccompanied minors. So we have a wide variety of population profiles we work with, all in risk of social exclusion. And we do also a wide variety of projects, from socioeducative support, residential projects with housings that we give, and we also have a quite wide employment area. And specifically in this employment area is where we were going to be presenting today. So I don't know if Berta if you are there, if she is online. Berta?
Escribiendo a Sofía para que se conectase también.
Okay, so Sophia is also going to be connecting now. Great. So she's going to start presenting. Ya puedes empezar a presentar.
Okay, thank you. Gracias, Judith. Bueno, yo voy a la parte de primera experiencia, creo que ya se he explicado un poquito. Empiezo desde el inicio, ¿no? Mejor.
Desde el inicio, sí, solo he presentado a Pinar.
Vale, estupendo. Primera experiencia profesional es un proyecto que nace en 2014 por la situación económica que había en España, de muchísimo desempleo juvenil. Casi desgraciadamente, ¿no? Es una situación que no ha cambiado mucho en estos años. El desempleo juvenil es un problema muy estructural del mercado español. Y aparece como dar respuesta a un grupo de jóvenes que veremos, ¿vale? Os voy a explicar el perfil de los jóvenes para poder acceder al mercado laboral.
So First Professional Experience is a project that began in 2014 that was oriented to helping youth reach employment. Sadly, in Spain, due to the structural things of our labor market, we have high rates of unemployment, specifically among young people. So this is a big issue, which has led us to develop the project specifically targeted to them and to their reality to try to change this.
Había pensado empezar primero presentando el itinerario. Voy a enseñar a explicar primero el perfil de los jóvenes. Me voy a saltar 2 diapositivas.
So if you could go 2 slides further, please.
Other, please. Me voy a ir a la siguiente, ¿vale? Y luego me vengo a esta.
Next slide.
Vale. cuando lo planifiqué pensando en otra cosa. He pensado que es mejor que partamos del perfil de primera experiencia de los jóvenes para luego pensar en por qué hacemos ese recorrido con ellos a lo largo de su estancia con nosotros.
So we're going to start presenting the profile to understand what is the context and later understand the intervention that is done with that.
Vale, el perfil de los jóvenes son jóvenes de 18 a 25 años que en la mayoría de los casos no han acabado sus estudios, que no tienen casi experiencia laboral o son experiencias laborales muy precarias y donde la exclusión social es bastante alta. Todas estas características hacen que sea muy difícil, ¿no?, acceder al mercado laboral. ¿Sigo? ¿Traduces?
Yeah, traduzco. So the profile that we work with are young people, as you can see in the slide, between 18 and 25-year-olds. Most of them have not finished their basic studies, so they have not finished mandatory high school, for instance. And they have little or non-job experience. So they have no studies, no job experience, and they are in a personal, social, and economical risk situation. So they are very, very vulnerable.
Cuando decíamos, hay una característica que es de 18 a 25 años, les hace ser muy vulnerables porque no han tenido, o sea, son demasiado jóvenes para acceder al mercado laboral. Entonces, eso es una dificultad para ellos. Si además, como os decía antes, no han acabado sus estudios, nos encontramos en el sistema educativo español. No es un sistema educativo en el que se premie se potencie el aprendizaje manual, sino que es más bien el aprendizaje, no sé si llamarlo intelectual o utilizar la memoria. Estos chicos en su mayoría aprenden mucho mejor aprendiendo desde el hacer. Se encuentran en una fase donde el colegio o el sistema educativo les ha dicho que no sirven para estudiar. ¿Vale? Entonces, cuando llegan al mercado laboral, claro, con 18 años, lo que quieren es, bueno, si me dicen en el instituto o en el colegio no sirvo para estudiar, yo lo que quiero es ponerme a trabajar. Y cuando llegan al mercado laboral, lo que se encuentran es que le dicen, claro, es que tienes 18, 25 años, tienes muy pocos años, no tienes experiencia, no, es que tampoco me vales. Con lo cual se encuentran con un doble no. O sea, esto que en España hablan ninis, casi son nonos. Es decir, no estudias y no trabajas. O sea, les ponen como el mercado laboral o la sociedad en sí ya le ponen muchas dificultades.
So this range of years between 18 and 25, they are very young, so they have not been able to develop both theoretical or practical knowledge to be able to enter the labor market with no job experience and without studies finished. They are in a very vulnerable situation because companies are not interested in hiring them. And what they have had is an experience in which the educative system here in Spain has very much encouraged those students that have a good memory are good for studying and memorizing, mostly memorizing, but does not facilitate or encourage manual knowledge. So these young people are very good with their hands and doing more practical sort of works. But the theoretical part and the memorizing part is something that they struggle a lot with. So the educative system has told them that they are not adequate or not good enough to be able to continue through that path. But the labor market says they are too young and unexperienced to be able to join the labor market. So they have a double rejection from the educative system and also from the labor market. Generally, needs, or in Spanish they say ni doesn't study or doesn't work, but the reality is that they are not allowed to continuing studying or not allowed to work. So that's the reality they have to face.
En algunos casos también se encuentran que bien sus familias no apuestan por su formación, es decir, tú lo que tienes que hacer es dejarte de tonterías y ponerte a trabajar. Es otro de los casos que nos encontramos. Claro, se vuelven a encontrar con otra frustración, que sus padres les dicen te tienes que poner a trabajar y no encuentro empleo. O en casa hace falta dinero, si quieres seguir estudiando muy bien, pero tú tienes que buscarte trabajo. Entonces, cuando van a acceder al mercado laboral, se les cierran muchas puertas. O sea, no hay empresas que les puedan ofrecer experiencias de calidad.
So another issue they have to face is their families, who don't many times give them support to study or to continue learning. They want them to start working due to economical reasons, and this is very difficult because without any sort of training, you cannot get a job, but you're forced to get into the labor market as soon as possible. So they have a lot of pressure on their backs to get into the labor market.
Lo que nos encontramos en muchos casos, podría decir en la mayoría, es que tienen unas responsabilidades muy, muy altas respecto a su edad, donde se tienen que hacer cargo de parte de su familia, o bien porque son el sustento de la familia, o bien porque los padres están trabajando y ellos se tienen que hacer cargo de los hermanos. Entonces tampoco tienen cabida para buscar trabajo, es todo un poco complejo. Y aquellos chicos que les han dicho no vales para estudiar, no vales para trabajar, se hacen la pregunta de entonces, ¿para qué sirvo? ¿Soy útil para la sociedad? Entonces también vienen con autoestima bastante dañada. El coronavirus sí que hemos notado también que además de todo eso, las habilidades sociales se han perdido muchísimo. El trabajo en equipo, el trabajo en grupo y la parte de comunicación, creo que cada día la tenemos que trabajar más porque son competencias, son soft skills que en el trabajo les van a pedir y que a día de hoy vienen muy por debajo de la media.
So these young people have, like as we said previously, high responsibilities at home, higher than most young people their age should have, like having to maintain economically their families. They have a lot of pressure, but the educative system says they're not valid for that. The labor market says they're not valid for that, and they ask themselves, what am I good for? Where do I fit into this system? Because everyone is rejecting me, and I don't know where I can contribute to society and how I can support my family. So they have a lot of pressure. And of course, the COVID situation has not helped. We have noticed that young people have had increased in difficulties socially interacting. Their soft skills related to social skills, teamwork, and that sort of thing has suffered a lot. So this is an issue that we have also had to try to find a solution given the current situation.
Ahora sí, muy brevemente, porque veo que me voy a comer el tiempo, si no, el itinerario o la línea que ellos siguen. Empezamos con ellos trabajando todas las competencias necesarias para acceder a un trabajo, todas las competencias personales, es decir, trabajo en equipo, comunicación, flexibilidad, responsabilidad respecto a un trabajo. También les ayudamos a poderse organizar y decir, bueno, tienes estas responsabilidades en tu casa, que las entendemos, vamos a ver cómo tú también puedes tomar decisiones y puedes seguir adelante en tu itinerario. A partir de ahí es cuando hacen una selección en la empresa. Yo creo que uno de los puntos más de éxito casi del proyecto es que es un proyecto que no es que Pinardi ha creado el proyecto, sino que es un proyecto creado con las diferentes empresas. Y primera experiencia profesional, por ejemplo, en Meliá, en los hoteles de Meliá, tiene unas cosas comunes, pero la primera experiencia en UPS, que es de logística, es, podríamos decir, distinto, ¿no? Tiene una matriz igual que se ha generado con Pinardi, que la selección de los chicos es compartida, es decir, primero selecciona Pinardi, luego selecciona la empresa aquellos mejores, que les hemos formado en competencias y que tienen un triple acompañamiento en las tres, tienen un triple acompañamiento de la empresa y Pinardi. Eso podríamos decir lo que es común en todas las empresas.
So if you could go one slide back, please. So this would be a little bit the phases that we go through with them. So firstly, we start working with them soft skills so that they are soft skills oriented to the labor market. So responsibility, social skills, teamwork, flexibility. And we also try to help them balance between the time they have to dedicate it to work with their family to get an income, and also balance this time of learning and achieving their professional goals. So trying to balance everything, because as we said, it's a very complex situation. And then once they are ready, they would go into the selection phase. it's important to mention that this project, First Professional Experience, is adapted and co-created with each company, which means that first professional experience that is done, for instance, in Melia Hotels International, that's one of our partners, is different than what is done in UPS. Let's say that the core idea is the same, but there are differentiated parts due to the fact that everything is adapted to what the company needs and what the final results they want to have. And also mention that the young people have a triple accompaniment. So they have a mentor from Pinardi, they have a mentor from the company, and inside, and they have the tutor of the company. So the mentor of Pinardi is in charge of communicating with the rest of mentors to see how the young person progresses. And then there's also these mentors inside the company from human resources, and then the mentor that does the training, among which they all together work together with the young person to get them to the professional goal that they have.
El objetivo final siempre es que el joven termine contratado en la empresa. Y este triple acompañamiento está al servicio del joven y de que consiga esos objetivos. Uno de los factores importantísimos, creo que Judith ya has explicado además cuáles son las tres figuras, el mentor, el tutor y el mentor profesional, mentor de Pinardi y el tutor. Lo imprescindible en esto es la comunicación entre los tres. O sea, hacemos un triángulo de comunicación y el joven siempre está en el medio y es una comunicación fluida porque todos tienen que saber qué es lo que está pasando y a partir de ahí también poder seguir orientando al joven.
Nos quedan 2 minutos, ¿vale, verdad? So as she said, this triple accompaniment is very, very important because each person knows exactly what is going on with the young person, then they can together correct or reorientate the intervention depending on the needs and the progress that the young person is having. So this is quite important.
Los beneficios del proyecto, yo creo que el primero es la co-creación, la unión de Pinardi y empresas privadas, la mejora de la empleabilidad de los jóvenes y el alto o las inserciones por encima de la media.
So a key element of this project is the co-creation with the company, and that the final goal is that the young person may get inserted inside the company. So we work together with them to be able to get to this point, and those are some of the key aspects.
Y creo que ahora ya podemos dar pie a Sofía. Sofía, creo que estás por ahí para que pueda. La hemos pillado además en clase, que tiene ahora que dar una sesión, para que puedas compartir también tu experiencia. Que Judith te presente, ¿vale?
Vale.
Y a partir de ahí, ¿te lanzas en inglés? ¿Te atreves?
No, hoy no, por favor, ya tengo suficiente. Perdón.
Gracias, Judith, todo tuyo.
Bueno, entonces,
Adelante, sí, cuéntanos.
pues nada, yo soy Sofía y yo conocí Pinardi hace 3 años y principalmente surgió de una manera un poco por casualidad, porque yo quería trabajar con 19 años y ser una persona independiente. Y claro, un día estaba viendo las redes sociales y vi que se estaba dando un curso de manipulador de alimentos, que da la casualidad que yo en ese momento quería estudiar cocina y dije, mira, voy a aprovechar la oportunidad y voy conociendo un poco lo que es el sector y abrirme un poco las puertas.
Te paro para que Judith te pueda traducir.
Vale.
So Sophia is saying that she knew about First Professional Experience 3 years ago, a little bit by chance. She was scrolling through social media, social network, and she saw a job training for food handler. And she was, in that time, she was 19. She wanted to be economically independent, and she wanted to start cooking training. So she thought this was a good opportunity. And that's how she got to know about First Professional Experience.
Vale, sigo. Entonces, al ver que ese curso se daba cerca de donde yo vivía, pues aproveché y al finalizar ese curso me dieron la oportunidad de hacer otro programa si yo estaba interesada, y claramente estaba interesada porque en ese momento estaba buscando trabajo y ellos me decían, pues te podemos ayudar, asesorar y todo eso, y lo aproveché. Y ese programa se trataba de Albor. Después llegué a primera experiencia profesional, donde ya ahí ya sabía dónde quería entrar y a la empresa que iba a llegar para hacer unas prácticas, pero antes de ello tenía que pasar, hacíamos talleres de trabajo en equipo, de habilidades sociales, de autoconocimiento, de ganar confianza y eso. Te dejo para que puedas traducir.
So once she started the center that was going to do the training of food handler was very close to where she lived. So she started going there. She got the certificate, and after getting the food handler certificate, they told her that there was a chance to grow even further and actually get a training inside a company. So she was interested. She started going there. But before entering the company, because once she had soft skill training, she started the program of first professional experience, already knowing what company she was gonna probably go into in the trainership. But before that, they had all sorts of workshops to develop different soft skills and also to develop their self confidence, to be able to later on join this training where they would learn all the technical parts inside the company.
Y también recalcar el apoyo que teníamos a la hora de realizar las prácticas en las empresas. Siempre teníamos un mentor que se preocupaba por nosotros, nos hacía seguimiento, y eso es la verdad que era de agradecer porque ese apoyo cuenta muchísimo. Y después de realizar esas prácticas, pues la empresa decidió contratarme y actualmente sigo trabajando en la misma empresa y eso para mí, o sea, me llena de felicidad porque es como una familia, o sea, suena cursi, pero es mi familia ahora mismo. Y también en Pinardi, pues me han sabido escuchar, siempre me preguntaban, oye, pues, ¿qué quieres estudiar más adelante después del grado superior? Yo le dije, pues quiero hacer administración de empresas y turismo. Y me dijeron, mira, tienes esta oportunidad en la Universidad de Batel y preséntate. Y mira, aquí estoy estudiando administración hotelera y turismo.
So just to wrap up her testimony, after that she started doing her internship and it was quite successful, so much that she ended up working there, and she actually continues to have a job there. And for her, she says that they're like family to her. She said that during the training, both the tutor and the mentor had a great impact on her. They were always taking care of her, seeing her progress. And of course, the support from Pinardi was also there even after the insertion. She told her dreams of actually getting to study at the university, to study hotel administration, tourism. And they offered her, or they told her about this opportunity in a university called Batel, and she actually is currently studying in a university to become a hotel administrator and tourism expert. So we are very, very proud of her and very happy to having her join us today. Muchas gracias, Sofía.
A vosotras.
And that's wonderful. Thank you so much, and congratulations as well. We're going to move straight on to our next speakers. So I'm going to move over to Cristiano Schubert from Joblinger, an organisation in Germany, to give the next presentation. And don't forget, there will be a chance to do a question and answer session. So do please put any questions you have in the chat function as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation today, for listening to us, and for the interest in our initiative, Joblinger. I'm here today with Mohamed Boualoua. Mohamed, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Hello. I'm happy to be here with you. My name is Mohamed. I'm 28 years old, born and living in Frankfurt, Germany. I am a former participant of the Joblinger program in 2018, and I have found my apprenticeship by a partner company of the Joblinger, and in summer I want to study business administration. I have made a apprenticeship as an office clerk, and so I want to achieve my goal as a teacher in this area.
Thank you. I'm very happy that you're here with me today. So next slide, please. Yeah, Joblinge is an initiative that was founded by the Boston Consulting Group and the Eberhard von Kuhnheim Stiftung of BMW more than 10 years ago now, in 2009, as an answer coming from economy to youth unemployment. Because there was a little company actually in the Bavarian forest who did not find a trainee, although the unemployment rate for young people was quite high at that time. And so they addressed BMW to do something about that. And this is how and why they founded Joblinge together with the Boston Consulting Group. And our aim is to place young so-called socially disadvantaged people into the job market, which is to help them find an apprenticeship. Because in Germany, we have this dual vocational system, as Claudio mentioned before, that takes about 2.5 to 3.5 years. And the trainees go to school for 2 days a week, and they work in a company for 3 days a week. And without having finished either university or an apprenticeship, you don't have a chance to become a skilled worker at all. And so to have really a long-term perspective on the job market, it is very, very important to finish either of those 2 degrees. So next slide, please. Our target group are young people who mostly live off social welfare, between 15 and 27. There are some with refugee background, but also young people who grew up in Germany or came 10 years ago. They have low to medium qualifications. It's really very many different school degrees they have, but most of them have bad school degrees. So they have problems with their CV and with addressing companies to get really a placement in an apprenticeship. Most of them are long-term unemployed, which means that they have been without any job or any occupation since 2 or 3 years. And most of them do not really have a lot of digital competencies they really need also for their apprenticeships. So next slide, please. So far, we have worked with more than 13,000 participants throughout Germany with a placement rate of 75% and a sustainability rate of 83%. Sustainability rate we measure after 6 months of apprenticeship, because this is when our young people start school again, and this is the most vulnerable time in their apprenticeship. Right now, we have around 1,800 young people who take part in our program throughout Germany. So next slide, please. It is very important for us that the program really is based on 4 pillars. The first point is that we do everything not in a school form, but we really put an emphasis on practice from day 1 on, to take them out of what they are used to, not to confront them with school teaching, but to really address them with new experiences. The second pillar is one-on-one support through mentors. We will get to that also later. It is very important that the young people really feel meant and that they have somebody to talk to also for longer, and that they have role models, and that they feel that they there's really an honest and open interest in them. Then the bundled commitment. We have more than 30 locations throughout Germany. And at every location, we really try to combine the commitment and the engagement of companies, as well as the job centers, as well as people who engage voluntarily in the program. The fourth pillar is the social entrepreneurial approach, which means that we want to be measured, and I think this is throughout the world is more common than in Germany. We want to be measured by how many people we place into apprenticeships. We talk about that, and we also are very transparent with any numbers concerning money and also placement rate. The next pillar, please. This is an overview of the program. So we start with an admission phase, which is more a pedagogical trick. So we invite all interested young people who are sent to us by the job centers, and we tell them that we only work with motivated young people. So they have to show us their motivation first, because there are many companies who are engaged in the program. And so they have to work for 2 days, for example, in a kindergarten, and help the kindergarten by painting a wall. This is how, first, of course, they show their motivation to be part of the program, but also to change their views. So they are the ones helping and not anymore the ones being helped anymore. So they become active and take responsibility. And after they've gone through 2 or 3 days, within 2 weeks, working in a little group and also getting to know our trainers, they start with the orientation phase, where they go through different kinds of trainings. I will get to that on the next slide. And they are prepared by then to go into internships. And through the internship, they get the chance to apply for a job, an apprenticeship. And the companies say, okay, we have an open spot, but we would have never invited him or her just with a look on their CV or their school reports, but we give them a chance. And normally they do 2 or 3 internships until they have their apprenticeship placement. For refugees whose German is not good enough to immediately start an apprenticeship, because they also have to go to school, we have an additional 6-month qualification and work phase. Then we follow the whole apprenticeship. It's approximately 3 years, so 2.5 to 3.5 years. The active program ends with the start of the apprenticeship, but we're still there if there's a crisis or if there's any need for tutoring or anything else. Next slide, please. This is an overview of what we do in the orientation phase to prepare the young people for their internships. And I hand over to Mo to maybe tell us what was the most important things for you when you went through your orientation phase.
Yes, sure. For me, most important was the personal mentoring. The support from the mentor was enrichment for me, for my personality. As I was in the regular contact with my mentor, who is an internationally successful lawyer by Hogan and Lovells, who motivated me and inspired me with his appearance and his CV. And with whom I was able to speak openly about my goals and the difficulties in achieving those goals, especially when I wasn't sure how to act in situations. My mentor was a lighthouse who could give me tips and how to shift up a gear or not let difficulties get me to me personally.
Thank you. Yes, besides that, I will go to the mentoring also on the next page, but there are also companies visiting and introducing to different apprenticeships. And then we have some cultural workshops. I know that Mo had to write poems.
Yes, it was great. I like poems, so it was especially my thing.
But of course, we also have training for job interviews, and we have training for social skills, and so on and so forth. Next page, please. The mentoring is an essential part of the program. The Joblinge mentors come to us mostly through partner companies. There are grown-ups, working grown-ups in very different specifications who want to give something back because they all feel that they had luck in their life, that they've reached something, and now is the time to give something back. They have to have some professional experience, and they have to be 28 at least, and they have to really have some interest, of course, in young people, and they have to be able to encourage them and motivate them. But this is all they need in the beginning. We give them first an information talk, and then we have a training of 3 to 4 hours where we put them in groups together so that they can share questions, and we introduce them to a little bit to the life of our participants and of what their part is in the program. They are always the good cops, we are always the bad cops. So it's our job to confront the young people with what we feel they still need, and they always find an open door with their mentors, which is very good. And yes, so during the program, they meet once a week for 1 to 2 hours. And then we have on a regular basis, we have talks together with our pedagogues and with them, and to talk about the goals. And their job is done when the young people sign their contract of an apprenticeship. And so they always only have one mentee. That is also very important. Yes, and I think this is one of the most important things, that it has a clear framework for the mentoring. So it needs to be clear what their job is, what our job is. They are not there to place the young people. They are not there to give them money or anything, but just to be there and to be a role model. This is all for now. Thank you very much. Maybe you still have some questions. Thank you.
Finally, I would say, all in all, that the Joblinge program, I learned how to use my skills to the desired extent, to organize myself with the help on time. Time management workshops were very important for me to achieve my goals, always to get the best out of me on time. This has become enormously important because of my apprenticeship as an office clerk, because the failure and success of companies and projects depends on reliability. Since I was by the Joblinge, I have developed a much greater awareness of myself, to admit to myself or to recognize what I am not good, and to work on myself in these areas, and also to further promote my strength and use them in target manners. It is explicit this self-image that has become a driving force to me. I used to lack that, which often caused me to misjudge situations on myself and not able to perform like I wanted. So I'm very happy about the Joblinge program and my mentor, which I had in this time. I'm very thankful about that in my life.
Thank you so much. What an inspiring discussion. well, there is time for questions. We are going to go straight into a question and answer session. And I'm going to hand over to my colleagues, Jackie and Kat, again to lead that session with all the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi, and thank you everyone for these contributions. This is really interesting and inspiring to listen to for me, and I'm sure for everyone else as well. The first question I would like to direct at Berta and Judith, and it's about recruiting professional mentors onto the program. So could you tell us a bit more about how do you go about recruiting professional mentors, and especially if you have any insights on engaging mentors from SMEs, so from smaller businesses? That would be really interesting. Thank you.
A ver, la pregunta es cómo se reclutar o cómo se trabajaban los mentores profesionales y también cómo se trabaja con pymes.
Vale, en el caso de los mentores profesionales están asociados siempre a la figura de los recursos humanos o de RSC. No me salía. ¿Por qué está asociado a esto? También porque ellos tienen la visión general de la empresa, donde saben qué cualidades necesita cada empleado, cómo formar a los chicos en esas cualidades, y luego cuando estamos pensando en las inserciones laborales, en qué huecos de la empresa va a haber sitio. Entonces, de esta manera es algo voluntario, ¿vale? Está dentro de su parte de voluntariado corporativo también. Y cuando se piensa en ellos, pensamos en todas estas cualidades y también en un perfil muy pedagógico, y hay veces que, bueno, hay una sensibilidad que ya viene de serie.
So generally the people that do the mentoring inside the company are people from the human resources department or the ones that work in social corporate responsibility. So these are the people who do the mentoring. So we have the tutoring person and then the mentor. This mentor is selected because they know what are the qualities and the profile that the company is most interested in having. So they're going to be able to give an orientation and advice to a young person, knowing what is that the final goal that the company is looking forward in their workers. And also because these people of certain responsibility inside the company know where are the places inside the company where they're going to be available job positions, because our final goal is that the young person might get inserted inside the company where they are doing their internship program or the work-based learning training. So this is the reason why we look for this profile. Of course, that they have some sort of pedagogical inclination, because participating as a professional mentor inside the companies is voluntary. It's part of their social responsibility functions or contribution, but it's in any case, it's always voluntary, and we try to get companies to work on motivating their workers to do so, but it's in any case, it's voluntary action that they do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The next question is for Cristian. Cristian, could you tell us a bit more about how the support is tailored to individuals' needs on the Joblinge program?
Well, at first, of course, they are in a group, and the group process is very important because they teach each other and they give critique. So it's very good for how they think of themselves and to give feedback and to learn how to deal with feedback. But then on the other hand, through the mentoring and through also one-on-one talks, it's getting very tailored. So we have also some pedagogues who only talk about their professional career and their goals, and they place them into the companies, and that's very much one-on-one. So we have the group process, we have the mentors, and we have the one-on-one talks.
Thank you, Cristian. The next question is for Sophia. Sophia, could you tell us what would you say is the main difference that participating in the program has made for you?
Tenemos un problema, que Sofía ha tenido que salir, que tenía ahora otra reunión.
Sophie had to go now to a meeting. She could not stay for the
Q&A. Okay. Sorry, I did not notice that.
No worries.
That's understandable. So can I ask the next question to Mo then, please? Could you tell us about the one-to-one support on the Joblinge program? In what ways would you say it has helped you?
I think it was very helpful because I was very unstructured and I don't make any anything productive in my free time. So it's like Cristiano said it. It's a good and a bad cop, and then he's want to keep it from your comfort zone, and you started to be more and more selbstständig. Christian, was heißt das?
Independent.
Independent, yes. I started to be more and more independent, and that was very great for me and my environment. So I know I can take responsibility for myself and for the society, for my future. And I think the one-on-one mentoring was for me a great thing, to be very personal with somebody, because I trusted, before I was by Joblinge, I trusted not everybody my worries, and when I got a mentor, somebody who worked with me with my problems and my difficulties, so that was for me very great experience, also for the future, to give the society trust and to know I can do something by myself.
Thank you, Mo. Can I ask the next question to Bert and Judith again, about how you make sure that you offer holistic support to young people on the program, and especially how the having different mentors plays a role in that, in offering this holistic support.
O sea, cómo es que damos cómo conseguimos dar un apoyo holístico al joven y cómo este triple acompañamiento permite que se dé esto. O sea, un poquillo qué aporta yo entiendo que qué aporta cada parte.
Te voy a decir, el cómo lo conseguimos, yo también me lo pregunto a día de hoy, no sé cómo lo conseguimos. La parte del mentor educativo, lo que aporta es todo el conocimiento vital del joven, por así decirlo, su proyecto de vida. El mentor profesional lo que aporta es la visión de empresa y conocer cómo está el joven en la empresa, y el tutor es el que le transmite todo el conocimiento técnico y el que le invita a seguir mejorando, y es el que se pasa 8 horas al día con él, o sea, el que le conoce muy, muy, muy bien. Este acompañamiento se suele dar, el mentor educativo habla a demanda, ¿no? Un poquito cada 15 días, cada semana con el chico. Entre el mentor profesional y el mentor educativo es una vez al mes, y entre el tutor y el mentor educativo cada 15 días también suele ser el seguimiento. En este caso, el mentor educativo se suele desplazar a la empresa y hace allí las mentorías y las reuniones con la empresa.
So we had these 3 figures, the educative mentor, that is someone from Pinardi, that is the one that is from even before they start first professional experience, when they are doing the soft skill training, they know the young person, they know their vital situation, their history, and help them create that plan and help them realize what they are capable of and where they want to be. So they are the ones that are accompanied before, during, and after their travel through the company and through their job experience. Generally, the average time that they see is every 15 days, every weekly basis. They have those mentoring sessions with that dedicated mentor from Pinardi. The professional mentor is the one from Human Resources that we mentioned. That gives more a professional sort of profile and also gives them a vision of the labor market and of the company and its trajectory and how to get inserted inside of it from a more general point of view. This mentor meets up with the young person monthly. And lastly, there is the tutor. There's a person that is every day 70 hours with a young person, teaching them how to develop, the training and then more technical parts. So the educative mentor from Pinardi and the tutor meet up also 15 days, weekly basis, to see how the young person is evolving inside the training, how the challenges they're having. So it's important to have all these people among each other to be very well connected, to be able to see how the young person is evolving in all different areas, from a personal perspective, from a technical point of view, and also how their professional plan is developing and if they are reaching their goals. So having this very close connection to the young person and also among the different mentors is key, and that's how it's developed, and it works quite well.
Thank you so much for that. I will now hand back over to Naomi, I think, because I think it's time for us to move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, the next item on the agenda is simply to wrap up and close this event. The conversation, so first particularly from employers and what employers are doing in the UK and internationally to support young people into employment. And then the second half of our event, which really focused on particular personalised support for young people, particularly those who have faced particular barriers and who might be quite far from the labour market, facing different kinds of inequalities, and really understanding what's working to support those young people into sometimes their first jobs, pre-apprenticeship programs, and so on. And it was absolutely fascinating. So I just want to say thank you so much to all of our speakers for their contributions, especially the younger people who have been through the programs and came to share their personal lived experiences with us. Incredibly powerful and inspiring. I also want to thank JP Morgan again so much for supporting this incredibly important programme of work, at which at L&W we are very proud to be working on, and particularly thanking Hanka and Louisa from JP Morgan. I want to remind you that we've shortly be publishing about 6 new films on our website, but the full range of materials and resources will remain free to access, free of charge on our website as well, as Jackie ran through earlier. And while the economies around the world are beginning to recover from the impacts of the pandemic, there is going to be, or very likely to be, a long-lasting impact on young people's labour market transitions. We at L&W are committed to taking this agenda forward, and we hope to keep working with a whole variety of our partners to improve outcomes for young people, to ensure that they get access to the highest quality opportunities that enable them to fulfil their potential. Many thanks again, and we hope that you've been inspired by this event. Thank you.